Welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets.
The transparency, the openness, the communication is more than you could expect. I'm sold.
Don't let the fact that you don't know something or don't know enough about something hold you back.
I knew I wanted to invest. What better way to invest than to invest in what I already know that I love, which is real estate.
It was initially the 12% return, but it quickly turned into the people.
All right, welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets, and we have a great panel today. I'm going to start from my left to right. Heather Andrews. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Bella Hoffman. Hi, Bella. This is your first time on the podcast. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And Bart Dill, who's also an old timer.
I'm an old timer these days.
The OG. How does that make me
Now,
feel?
just
Old.
so everyone understands, Bart and Heather, you both grew up in Arizona, which is pretty rare. So you're kind of like our use case for talking to somebody who's been in Arizona a long time. Bella, you're from California, as I recall, right?
Right. Yes. Northern California.
Okay, so we got some good perspectives. I'm from Idaho. Two Arizona natives, because we're going to talk about a lot of things regarding Arizona, Phoenix specifically. And I want to jump into the first story that I'm going to mostly talk about this one because this one's near and dear to my heart. It's two things. It's barbecue food and it's the Midtown area of Phoenix. And as you can see from the headline, Little Miss BBQ owners cite rising costs as they cancel the Midtown location. So people who have lived in Arizona for a while have probably heard of Honey Bear's Barbecue,
Oh,
which
yeah.
like 20 years ago, it was like the thing. You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Love
And I
Honey
think
Bears.
they still have a few locations around, but they've kind of lost their big their mojo that they used to have. I remember everyone used to talk about it, go there all the time. And this location in Midtown Phoenix, which is right by my house, and so that's where I guess I'm just putting it publicly on the internet where I live in the area I live in, but I guess it's too late.
Where
now.
to find Jamison.
But this is near my
Right
house,
there.
near my neighborhood, and this Honey Bear's location needed a lot of work. And then now you have Little Miss BBQ. They have two locations in the Phoenix area, and they were going to expand and take over this location and open up. And they just announced, after they bought the building, they announced that they're going to now not move forward with the project. And it's unfortunate, but as they say in the article, when they first were making plans to expand, interest rates were at 3%. Now they're near 7%. And then in addition to that, their construction budget was $900,000. Now the same work is $1.9 million. So it's gone up $1 million in the cost to build it. And it's changed by 4% in how much the loan would cost. So this just gives a good example of the types of things people are experiencing right now in real estate. You know, this is just a local company that was looking to grow to their third location, and now they're going to have to move off this project because interest rates are higher and the cost to build is higher, more than doubled. So it sounds like they're going to have to sell this location and move it on to someone else. And I'm sure someone else can take that location over. It's kind of this unique, big A-frame building. I guess it used to originally be an IHOP. And, just to kick it off with that story, that gives a little bit of the backdrop of the sort of stuff that we're experiencing. And now I want to transition to a totally different topic, a little bit more on the positive side. When you talk about Barbie and Mattel, how can it not be positive? So this is the new Mattel Adventure Park that's been announced. This is the rendering. This is going to be over by the Westgate in Glendale. So I definitely want to hear from the folks from Arizona what they think about Barbie taking over Arizona, and then also Bella, what you think also. So this is a big new project that was just announced.
Well, I think Bart and I are fighting over this article for very different reasons.
You can go first.
Yeah, I saw Barbie Dreamhouse.
And I'm thinking Hot Wheels.
So we have very different attachments to this one.
Growing up, this is a nod to the little Bart. If he had a Hot Wheels amusement park, he would be fired up.
Yes.
I mean, as an adult, I'm going to go there. I'm going to ride the
But I don't
rides.
think this is you're not really the target market for this. So.
He's got nephews. He can.
Maybe.
You can go and not look weird.
But no, I think it's great. I think it's great for that area. The thing about Westgate and the Cardinal Stadium is on the weekends it's packed, but during the week it's pretty dead. So I think this is a great opportunity to get people from all over Arizona and tourists to go to that area of the valley, which is a great area. It's just right now kind of a weekend destination only during football season.
Well, the thing when I was reading it, they talked about being strategic about how to have it open year round.
Yeah.
And they're being really aware of our temperatures that can go a little bit high. And so they're putting a lot into having parts of it indoor and good air conditioning so people can come all year round. And what when I first read it, I thought that's so much more people coming here.
Yeah.
The tourism is good. But then there's going to be, I think it's 4 hotel towers. And so they've already thought about that. There's going to be places for them to stay. Right. So they've really thought about, I think, from every kind of angle.
And with this being right next to State Farm Stadium, it almost brings more of an incentive for people who perform in those areas to, have that appealing feature around that area, to make a full trip out of it and maybe extend it.
So sorry, when they built the stadium originally, there is the Westgate Mall there, and then that's kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
You got the stadium, you got the Westgate Mall, and the mall's cool, and there is some hangout there. But this is really going to kind of change the whole dynamic of the area, especially for people who I think this will probably be something where people will come from out of state to visit this place.
Yep.
And it adds another destination to the valley and specifically to the Westgate area.
I think we're just taking more from California. You don't have to go all the way to Disneyland. And I've never thought of Glendale as being like the cool place to go, but they're making an effort.
I mean, I grew up in a small town in Northern California, and we would travel to great lengths to go to the Great Wolf Lodge. Like was like a big thing. And so,
this one?
No, it was like 2 hours away from my house. But thinking of that mindset, like I hear people here just be like casually, oh yeah, I'm going to the Great Wolf Lodge on the weekend. And I'm like, that was like a whole trip, like 2 hours down the hill where I'm from. So this is going to be something where it benefits those even in the valley, not even just those coming in from out of town. So it's definitely going to be a big hit.
And it's huge, right? It's over 9 acres, over 160,000 square feet. There's going to be a party island, which that I'm very curious about. I would like my own party island.
It sounds like we're doing an ad for Mattel right now. Everyone go visit this place.
Well, and
we are not invested into this.
I probably missed this part, but this is what you're probably referring to, Bart, is that there's 2 roller coasters. One is an 84-foot Hot Wheels Bone Shaker roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm ready for my balls to be shaking.
This is kind of like the Barbenheimer movie coupling, where it's like it's okay, guys, to go to Barbie. If you go to this other movie, it kind of made guys feel a little bit better about it. So now you can go to the Mattel Barbie park because there's the Hot Wheels roller coaster. So they're trying to broaden that market. The second coaster is called the Hot Wheels Twin Mill Racer, and it will have a double loop and 2 corkscrews. I'm pretty sure corkscrew is like where you kind of go around. I don't know.
One of these.
I'm more of the old school. I like those old school wood roller coasters, but
those feel
I guess
safe.
I'm a little behind on the roller coaster innovation. But yeah, this is going to be a 45 in addition to that, 4,500 square foot of laser tag and mini golf. That's pretty cool.
To piggyback off Bella real quick, if you walk around Arizona or if you even go to a Cardinals game, you'll notice that like I would say 40% of the stadium are fans from other teams. Even at D-backs game, if the Cubs are in town, it's very blue. So I think
Oh,
this
it's
is a
awful.
yeah, it's a great opportunity though. It's because Arizona is very much a transplant state.
I didn't even know there was a stadium out there. I was just like,
Oh,
oh,
man.
look,
But
Barbie
It's right
Dreamhouse.
next to
So now
it.
there's something for everybody.
for relatives
Yeah.
that want to leave the cold and
Yeah.
come to Arizona in the wintertime and to have a good week there, this is
Yeah.
a great place for them to stay.
Titled "The Problem with Why Do People Live in Phoenix?" So
Felt a little rude.
they're
the
saying
title,
this
but
is amidst the big several days where we're breaking temperatures in Arizona, and everyone from across the country is thinking, why do people move to Arizona? And then at the same time, new data came out that showed Arizona and Phoenix is the highest growth metro in the whole country. And so that natural question is, why do people end up going back to Phoenix? Why are people moving here so much? And they talked about how this is not just a short-term trend. There are other cities that see really big growth for a few years if a big employer comes there, or if there's one event that kind of drives that growth. But Arizona has seen this for the last couple of decades, even though we are by far the hottest major city across the country. So wanted to dive into this article.
they talk about Maricopa County in particular, which is my county, that gained more residents for the whole nation. Not just this year, but it was 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. It's been just every year people keep coming. And I like anybody who recognizes how great Phoenix is. So a lot of smart people out there.
I think a lot of out-of-state residents, the complaint is always the heat. They always talk about, how do you guys live there? And I think it's similar to states in the Midwest, states on the East Coast, where the winters are very unbearable. And in order to drive your car, the first thing you have to do is go heat it up first, go back inside, then come back out, scrape the windshield, and then you can drive. And then also you're staying indoors all day. In this article, it says at the height of summer, Phoenix becomes virtually an indoor city during the day.
Yep.
And I 100% agree, but I also say at night, people will go out. You'll go on walks, they'll go to parks, and there is a pretty good nightlife even in the summer, even when it's really hot.
And I think if you can make it through one summer, you're fine.
Yeah.
Then it just feels like a rite of passage. And
And it's like the city also does things to help mitigate that heat. Like nowhere in, at least where I'm from, would you see the overhangs at the crosswalks. But here, if you look around at many crosswalks, there's like the overhangs that shade you. And obviously at like public transportation stops as well. But even at a crosswalk, that's something that's thought of, and that's not really elsewhere. But it's similar to like when you live in a state that's super cold, you don't stand outside in a blizzard.
Nope.
Like
No.
here, you don't just stand outside. Like you go from the parking lot, like this article says, like from the parking lot to your destination. And then also things like
air conditioner.
Right. And things like that Barbie Dreamhouse, Mattel, forget the name of it, that we just spoke about. Phoenix has things that accommodate for those summers. I mean, look at Putt Shack that just came to North Scottsdale. That's like a indoor mini golf place. So there's definitely much to do here, but I love Phoenix, not being from here.
Well, I was always surprised when I had friends come into town to visit. They had never seen like the misters outside.
Yeah.
Like if you sat outside at a restaurant.
I
that
love
was
it.
such a shock to them. I was like, is this not at every restaurant?
Yeah, and the misters, for people who haven't been to Arizona, it's like running water through the gutters and then it's spraying a mist, and it's like a
It's
big
fun.
fog.
Yeah.
But it cools it down, I don't know,
It does.
10, 15 degrees. And it's funny to see people have that first experience there. But yeah, I noticed when I first moved to Phoenix, in the summer, people end up going to bed early, waking up early, especially if you have a dog, because that's the only time you can walk the dog at like 6. It's actually nice for a couple hours, and the desert cools down generally at night. Even though we get to 115 sometimes in the middle of the summer, it'll cool down to 90 at night and in the early morning hours. And like Bart, you were saying, it basically becomes an air conditioning city during the summer. But if you grow up in an area in the Northeast or in the North where the winters are terrible, most of the time you're indoors there, but it's not for 3 months, it's for 6 months.
Yeah.
In the case of where I grew up in Idaho, just a different thing. And the article really, didn't bring up anything new or different if you're not from Phoenix. But I think some of the people from outside of Arizona, they always just kind of scratch their head. They're like, how does there enough water in the desert? How do these people survive down there? And why does everyone keep moving there?
Well, I think Arizona has proven that we are experts at water conservation.
Yeah.
And we just get better and better at making sure there's water.
And this is from an article that came out from Goldman Sachs that has their housing prices predictions through 2026. So I always like Goldman Sachs data because I think that they're the best that can predict some of these numbers. But at the same time, it is almost impossible to predict stuff like this when you're looking 2, 3, 4 years out. They're looking at a lot of macro numbers and trying to come up with an expectation of what they think housing prices will do based on those numbers. But it's very difficult to do that. But in their predictions for what they expect housing prices to do in 2023, so this year, they expect housing prices to go up on average nationally 1.3%, followed by 1.7% next year, and then 2.4% in 2025, and 3.8% in 2026. So they are expecting it to be a little bit flatter for the next 2 years, and then for prices to continue to move up. So this is interesting because earlier this year, Goldman Sachs came out and they said they expect housing prices could go down as much as 25% in some markets, and they haven't. Housing prices have stayed stable. So now in their update, they aren't talking about that. They're just talking about how housing prices are going to stay steady and continue to go up. And I think that, as a homeowner, as an investor, this is good to see, because I think a lot of those concerns about what could happen with the housing market are now kind of past us.
Yeah. I like this article a lot because of the timeline it gives you. So in 2020, the pandemic and remote work trend caused a financially stimulated millennial group to go out and buy homes. And in order to keep up with this housing demand, the article talks about home supply would have to increase by 300%. So fast forward 2 years to 2022, U.S. home prices have increased by 43%, and 60% of these gains can be attributed to the heightened demand triggered by work from home policies and lack of supplies in home. And then in 2023, we're actually starting to see this gridlock now start to happen.
Which I think you would think, it's going to keep skyrocketing. But then you right up against that, you have there's no inventory. The interest rates are so high that it has to it just kind of stops. And it's rising much more modestly than it typically does. And so I don't know that people were expecting that. They really thought homes would just continue to going up and up. But it's kind of, I think, hit a nice pause, a good break for people.
Yeah, and with the increase in interest rates, there was a lot of expectation that home prices would go down.
Yeah.
Because of the interest rates. If interest rates are the same, then it's a completely different scenario. But when it goes from 3 to 7, there's a big impact on consumer behavior. But to your guys' points, there is a lot of demand for housing. The pandemic only increased the need and the desire for people to live in a place that they enjoy, and there's not enough supply of housing to keep up with that demand.
Yeah, I think it said in 2020 there was 2.2 million more household formations that came about than they expected. That was just unprecedented. This all of a sudden people are like, I don't have to live with a roommate. I can live alone. I want to work from home. I want more space. And all of a sudden there's 2.2 million more people who need somewhere to live.
And if you're a renter, the same thing happened in 2020. A lot of renters said, boy, I have to work from this little apartment that I have a very small room. I don't have any place to work outside of my bedroom without an office area. And it really started prompting how people want to live. And so now as we look at some of these additional and younger folks who are starting to rent and look at buying a home where traditionally they would start buying a home. This latest article where renters are actually very happy renting right now, especially those Gen Zers. So in this survey, folks are looking at owning a home versus renting, and Gen Z, 51% of them believe that renting is a better option than buying right now.
The thing that really stood out to me is that it gives them an entryway into a neighborhood they normally wouldn't be able to live in. So they're very much like John, our other co-founder, talks about, the neighborhood is the amenity, that this is their way into, like, and I was particularly thought about our property venture on Central, that's surrounded by multi-million homes, this beautiful property, and we have a this great multifamily in the midst of this like gorgeous area, and that lets people live in that area and where they typically couldn't buy a home.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I'm always baffled when I hear people decide that they have to buy a home. And so to do that, they're going to live in an area that they wouldn't necessarily want to live. And it's not very close to where they're working or going to school. So one little story I heard this week, and hopefully they're not listening, but it's a family member who moved to Arizona to go to med school. And their med school is in an area where it's expensive to buy homes, but you could rent. And this person didn't need to buy a home, but they had in their head, oh, we really want to buy a home. We really want to buy a home. So they're in med school for 3 years, and they ended up having to buy a home about 30 minutes away from med school.
Oof.
And when I heard that, I thought, boy, that is, I think is a mistake. Like, it is better when you live in a big city, and these folks have never lived in a big city, so they don't get it. But if you're commuting 30 minutes each way for the next 3 years versus living 5 minutes away, you can pick that neighborhood that's close to your school or your work, find a nice rental there, and have the ability to not have to spend an hour on the freeway. That's what most people are discovering is a better option for life. But some people in their head just think, oh, I got to start owning a home, and I'm going to do whatever it takes.
I think it's a good point, even though it'll make family dinners a little awkward now that you've told that. Well, so also in the article, they talk not only Gen Z being happy, but older renters. We're seeing a lot of senior people are preferring to rent as well. They're seeing they don't have to worry about home maintenance and all those things, that they'd rather, they've got things to do, places to go, and they don't want to be tied down to a home.
Yeah, the Gen Z, I think priorities are just different. Like we, back in the day, used to value, buying a house, settling down, getting married, all that. But now it's changed to where you could be a lot more independent, and renting is convenient when you're independent. You could just get up and go.
They want flexibility.
Yeah.
And you're just more liquid. That's a big part of it, is having cash on hand to go do things you actually want to do. When you own a home and you have a mortgage payment, and I mean, you're kind of locked in. Whereas if you're renting, a little bit more liquid, you can go do things you want to do, travel. You can get out of your lease in a month and take a new job that's going to pay you more in, Scottsdale.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense to buy a home if it costs more than renting. There's a lot of times, if you look at our history, where it was actually more costly to rent than to buy. So your rent was $1,500. You could go buy a townhouse and your payment was $1,200. You would buy the townhouse. That would make sense. And right now it's the inverse. To go buy that townhouse is going to cost you $2,100, $2,200. To rent something comparable, $1,700, $1,800. And this other article that came out from Globus talks about that. Median income earners can't afford more than half of the homes in the U.S. So if you look at the median income of $96,300, and that seemed high to me. So I guess that's median, not average, but there's must be a lot of wealthy people, and I know the average is a lot lower than this, but that 40.5% are feeling what they call the 1-2 punch of rising home prices, which is not only are the prices themselves higher, but because interest rates have gone up, that's really increased the cost of buying homes. And since this is the situation a lot of folks find themselves in, where less than half can afford buying a home today.
Yeah, Taylor Morrison Home Funding had an opinion I agree with in the article, and it says wages play a crucial role in the affordability to buy a home discussion. It's unlikely that interest rates, home prices, and costs will significantly decrease in the future. And my takeaway for that is, for anyone that's stuck in this affordability gap, is start investing passively now and look for additional ways to make some passive income on the side. Because if you're going to be stuck in that medium pay range and you really want to own a home, you're going to have to earn more money.
I was just following up with that by saying you could still rent and save, like if you're planning, and it's almost going to benefit you more because you're going to be buying at a better time.
Right. And it's also part of kind of our new economy. You know,
Yep.
there's a lot of people now who are buying cars just to be a full-time Uber driver, so totally independent. They have no boss. And it's kind of the part of the new economy. The same thing with Airbnb, where you're renting out a room or you're renting out a casita where you live. And if you think about that as it relates to owning a home, things have changed, as we're talking about with buying a home. It's not affordable anymore. So if you're going to rent, you can't spend all your money. You do need to start putting some of that money you're saving away, or else you get 10 or 15 years down the road and you're living life and loving it, you know, not having to own a home. But the benefit of owning a home is it's kind of forced savings. You're paying that mortgage payment, and over time you're getting some equity. And a lot of our investors in Neighborhood Ventures are renters. People are really surprised to hear that, but a lot of them are renters because they're smart enough to know, okay, I save some money every month by renting, but that $400 or $500 I need to be putting away to get the upside of that investment that I would be if I'm owning a home.
Yeah, I have a buddy. This is kind of in relation to what we were talking about. I have a buddy who works in cybersecurity. That's his day job. He works at a restaurant that he eats at 3 times a week, just so he can get some free meals from there. On Sundays, he works at Lifetime Fitness for the free membership, and he's bought 6 cars just to Turo them. And he's one of the most well-off people I know. It's additional work, but it's easy work for him, and he likes to do it, and he's making more money, so he can buy a house in the near future.
I just hope the restaurant has like a good menu. That's my worry. I hope it's a large menu.
It's a good menu.
Yeah.
If you had told that story to someone 30, 40 years ago, they wouldn't even understood what you said.
Yeah.
Turo. What?
I didn't understand that. I assume he's renting out the cars.
We can talk about Turo after this.
Yeah,
that feels
Turo's great.
But that's the key thing, is if you do take the benefits from renting, it's even more important that you're investing, putting money away, because you're not going to have that forced savings that come from owning the house.
And I assume that he really takes a lot of pleasure in watching what his money's doing by doing this. He's really got that long-term mindset.
Yeah.
And gets a lot of satisfaction seeing his money grow and what he can do with it, and so it makes all of that worth it.
Yeah.
And can eat another plate of that same meal.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He has a number in his head he wants to save to, and then he's gonna blow it all.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
One thing that we see a lot in the news right now is what's happening with commercial real estate, in particularly office space. And we know that there is a lot of vacancy in the big metro areas: New York, San Francisco, LA, Chicago, and these are places that have big footprints of office square footage. Smaller cities like Phoenix, even though our population's large, we don't have big footprints of office space like a Chicago does, or like an LA or a New York. And we're seeing anywhere from 30 to 40% vacancy in those offices in those large metro areas. So a question that's coming up is, what's going to happen with these empty offices, and can we convert them to housing that is badly needed? At Neighborhood Ventures, we took a hotel project that wasn't doing very well. It was an extended stay hotel, and we are in the process of converting that to housing in Mesa. And Mesa is short of housing, so they badly need this housing. So we're excited about being able to convert some of these assets that are not performing well as their current asset and giving them a facelift and converting them to housing. But it's a lot easier to do that with a hotel than it is with an office building. And in this recent study that came out, the expected value loss is almost $1 trillion, or 800 billion.
Wow.
Is potentially going to be lost in value by 2030 in what's happening with offices. The real estate sector, commercial real estate sector nationally, is in the teens, trillions teens. So this is you're definitely going to have an impact in the value of these office buildings. But this article also goes on to talk about how realistically only about 10%, 11% they expect could be converted from office to housing. And one of the things that we've looked at as we've looked at some of these opportunities to convert offices to housing is that the footprint is just different when those are built. There isn't the plumbing, there isn't the electrical. If you build housing, everyone needs to have a window. You can't put an apartment right in the middle of the building without a window. So you have to figure out how do you, the template of that building, how do you make sure that all of those new apartment units actually have a window? So it's going to be a real challenge. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen, but they're saying about 11% they expect could be converted.
Well, I thought that seems so small, 11%. And then I talked about there's very specific criteria that makes a building suitable. At first, that it needs to be in an area with good, strong public transportation. And so it's in cities like New York and San Francisco, or that kind of city, buildings that were constructed before 1990. So I liked that because they were more charming. And I appreciated that for anyone who lived in the 90s. Those buildings are also cheaper, but also they talked about the lighting, and I wouldn't even think that, but the window placement mattered.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted that natural light for it to be able to feel like a home or an apartment, how they did their windows really mattered. And so I so really narrowed down how many buildings could actually be changed. When I lived in New York, I lived in a building that had been an office building to apartment conversion. And there was always something like a little bit off about the building. There was some weird angles, some weird apartments.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it till like, oh, it's because this used to be offices. I'm living in a conference room.
I saw this firsthand last weekend. I was in San Francisco, and I was at an investor event, and I was talking about all the buildings that were vacant in downtown San Francisco. And one of the biggest ones is Salesforce Tower. It's a massive tower. And before COVID, it was 99% occupied, and now it's only 30% occupied. And I was talking to these investors about what the city's going to do with all these buildings that are pretty much abandoned. And they talked about their hope being it would be multifamily conversions.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I look at all of, the highest number of potential conversions, where those were, it was New York, San Francisco, LA, Washington, and Chicago, and a few sub areas. Those are all the places that have those big buildings with those windows.
Yeah.
So I think down here, I was looking at the floor plans online for the one on Camelback, and it was cool because it looks like all of the outer units have a different view, and that view is almost what determines that price point as well.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's finding
building.
those buildings that have the windows, which is a big deal.
And we know the developer that you're talking about, and not to give anything confidential because it's not, but that's taken them a whole lot longer than they expected. They've been working on that project a long time. Anybody who has driven by there has known it. It's been 3-4 years because of the challenges. When you convert, you have to get things approved through the city. You have to have the right contractors come in. And this is when you're converting a building that was really ideal for it because, like you said, it's all surrounded by windows, so it could work as apartments. And I think maybe people are trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, or whatever that saying is, where be in these areas, because New York, the top 5 metro areas that have the highest number of potential conversions: number 1, New York; number 2, San Francisco; number 3, LA. And those are the 3 most expensive places to live or rent. So people are salivating out there going, oh, my $4,500 monthly rent in my little apartment here. Can't we do something with these empty offices?
Yeah.
Can I move in there? Like Heather did at the apartment that you lived in that was converted. But there's a challenge ahead here. I think in some cases, and this, we don't like this, but some of those buildings are just going to have to go. They're going to have to demolish them and then build housing because financially it doesn't make sense. And we hate to take an old building out, but these things have to. It has to also make sense, and I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of these.
Well, I know there's the empty Fry's Electronics. I don't know if you've ever seen them out towards my neighborhood.
Are you wanting to move in there?
Well, I look at it, it's huge, it's massive. And I'm like, this is a huge space, but there's no way you could turn this giant warehouse. I mean, just a big giant building it just has to come down. I'll be the first one out there with a sledgehammer. I'm going to help. Don't worry.
Or they
We'll
need
be
to
saved
move
by me.
They need to make it an indoor pickleball court. That's a big.
That's what they're
demand right
doing
now,
at the
too.
Arizona Mills. Part of the mall is turning into indoor pickleball courts.
So we have very different interests. I keep seeing the videos where they do the Korean head spas where they do a head massage and wash your hair. Like those are the facilities I'd like to be built here. And you're like, oh, there's a stadium, there's a pickleball court. I want to relax.
Yeah, and malls have kind of their own unique ability. I think in some ways, malls converting those, Fiesta Mall and Mesa is another big example. Converting those are almost easier because they're in good locations and they have a lot of parking. So the Fiesta Mall in Mesa, they're making it a big educational center with a university and some other cool things around there. They'll do the same thing with the Fry's. An office tower, it's almost more difficult conversion. So if anybody is going to be an architect and you're in school right now and you can come up with some genius way to convert these, you'll have a great business on your hand, because this is going to be something we're going to be dealing with the next couple of years and a big question that we're looking at.